What's going on, everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know what it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. But listening to Rock for Rock and Metal Thrive. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It is June 9th, and yeah, I'm doing a special freaking Wednesday one for you because, well, honestly, we've had so many great bands that we're having scheduled right now. I'm like, you know what? This week calls for a 3-episode week for you to get going right before summer officially hits. So, this band, my God, what can I say about this band? The band is called BrokenRail. Their latest album, Beautiful Ones, recently dropped in 2020, and they're really pushing the song California as I am talking to you on this day I'm recording it. And hell, you get to see what happens from the week that we recorded this from the previous week because they were at number 44 on Billboard. You get to see where they increase because we literally get the data in for the week at that moment. It is freaking awesome during this podcast. Again, podcast shot a little bit before this time, so this info will already be out there. But we talk about what the band has been up to. We talk about, some of their fun tour stories. We also talk about the fact that when you go through an album, again, please go through the whole entire album. This album is dynamic as all hell, called Beautiful Chaos. But why would you listen to a single? You wouldn't you wouldn't read one chapter in a book and then just forget about it. No, read the whole thing. Go through the whole thing as an album. Plus, we also talk about many other things as well. Plus, that SiriusXM Octane fan group I always talk about? Yeah, we go deep into that group as well and how incredible it has been for so many bands. Also, again, shout out Joe Alfano once again. You the man, Joe. So you guys ready for BrokenRail, a band that is dynamic as all hell for you guys to get into? I know I am right now, so enough with me. Let's go! Yeah! Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast, I want to bring you all the great music that is really upcoming, really emerging, really going to also hit heavy. So by the end of the decade, these bands are going to be potentially the biggest bands by that end of the decade. So here's another one that I found on that great SiriusXM Octane fan page. Shout out to Joe Alfano for putting that together. Joe, you the best. Saw the fact that these guys were posting about the band. I'm like, let's go take a listen, take a look, see what's going on. And after listening to a couple of songs that were, honestly, you can't put this band in a box. When it comes to hard rock, heavy metal, any kind of inspiration, they've got it all. So please welcome the guys from the band BrokenRail. So guys, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being on. How's everything going in your corner of the world in this day and age?
I'd say probably the best it's ever been.
We seem to thrive in chaos. That seems to be what happens. Every time something gets just very chaotic and dramatic, that's when we tend to rise.
Yeah. And
that's where we get creative and realize what we're really made of.
The pandemic could have really destroyed us. It almost did. We had a brand new album after signing a label deal in October of 19, I think it was.
November of 19.
It was November 19. Yeah. And so we went straight to the studio in January, all month out there of 2020 in California. Recorded this badass album. We thought, it was going to be over the top, and then the world ended.
Literally got our masters back on February 28th of 2020.
And everything stopped.
2 weeks later.
And so, funding couldn't be what it would have been. And so everything was supposed to be scaled back. And long story short, we recorded 5 music videos. So we only have 6 total in our lifetimes. So that was huge. And as of right now, we're number 44 on Billboard at radio with our song California. And we will have an update probably during this podcast, and we'll tell you
if we made top 40 or not.
Yeah, we might be a top 40 band. So
hopefully you guys end up top 40, but you're not the only ones that dealt with the fact that you guys came out with the new album in 2020 and everything kind of got messed up during the pandemic. I recently did an episode with Mixie from the band Stitch Up Heart, and I know they released their album on March 13th of 2020.
So they released,
they released it, and then the next day and next couple of days, that's when everything completely shut down. So it's the fact that you guys ended up taking what came your way. You guys took the situation and just leaned right into it without any kind of worrisome, just, okay, how can we make this the best potential for us? Well, you got new music. And you made 5 music videos off it, so you have a lot of press that can end up being generated behind that. Plus, then all of a sudden, right now, but when we're shooting this, your song California, it was 44 on Billboard. Man, we're hopefully going to get an update at some point, even during this podcast, to see as we're shooting this, where it's going to be at this given time. So, I mean, I'm super excited to see if it got top 40 or not, because I did a deep dive into the song. We can talk about it later, but damn. That's all I can say. It's just damn. But like, not like, kind of like, you know, like the 5 stages of fatness from Gabriel Glass. There's fit, husky, healthy, fluffy, and damn. Like the good kind of damn.
That's my life.
That's one way to put it. All right, guys, as I like to start out these podcasts all the time, I want to get the listeners to know, and the viewers also, to know more about you guys, get a little bit more in depth with you. So I always ask 3 questions to each of you. The first 2, very simple, very easy. You're going to answer them just fine. The third one, though, is always, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, and it's always my favorite, but it's always where the most interesting stuff kind of comes out of. So the first question is what is your name? The second one is, when it comes to BrokenRail with the band, what do you do in the band? And the third one is my favorite, where I want to know a little bit of like a fun fact or a fun, wacky story about yourselves or about the band or anything like that will hopefully make me fall out of my chair laughing. Because I've heard ones where, let's see, band members have been chloroformed, dragged to the beach, and buried halfway in the sand to make it look like their legs got cut off by sharks. I've heard guys on tour, you know, peeing into cups and then throwing them out the van window, only for them to come back in the van and hit someone in the back.
That didn't happen.
I've heard the story from the bassist from Hinder, where he lights his balls on fire as his party trick. And the guys from Lydia Can't Breathe literally told me about how they raise money by having people like basically one of the guys will take a shit in the box and will write something on the wall of the venue.
Okay. Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm saying when it comes to wacky, I've heard a lot of them, so I'm just giving you guys a couple of suggestions of what I've heard, so you guys know where you can take this, basically. Anywhere you want. So you guys, whoever wants to start, go for it.
Here we go.
You go.
Okay. My name is Blake. I'm the vocalist. And I would have to say, I believe it was, when was that tour? The first tour with you? 2018, okay. I think it was Detroit.
Okay.
We had a Saturday off. We never have that. And so Sunday was the last day of the tour, so I shouldn't have been drinking. No, it was probably the most hungover I've ever been at a show. But
probably the best show we had.
Yeah, we went out and had like a craft beer or something, and till it closed down. Like what, 1, 2, you know, like we should have went to bed. And we go in Walmart across the street, and they were one of those, like, we're not used to having liquor in Walmart, you know, and so they have like a $6 handle of like rum or something, I don't know, whiskey, something disgusting that we shouldn't have drank. But we got that in a case of beer, and we somehow ended up in a field. We were like a 4-star restaurant, a 4-star hotel, yeah. I believe. And somehow we found a field outside of it, and we were there till sunup. And so you can imagine what we're like when we come in. Anyway, we go and hit the breakfast buffet, and there's like a softball camp or something going on. They're like 8 years old, and their parents are everywhere. And you can imagine what we're like. And it was an all-you-could-eat buffet, and you could request food. And so we just kept them cooking us stuff. And anyway, long story short, Dakota, who's not here now, he wasn't there then. He was the bassist.
Dakota's going to be the topic.
He's the top of this story. Dakota,
he's our bass
dipped out on us and went to sleep because he wasn't cool enough to hang.
He's a baby.
Just like he's not here now. And they had these muffins in a bag.
Like the size of a damn softball.
Yeah, they're like huge. And they were hard as a rock.
Saran wrap.
Yeah, they were like wrapped. You know. Well, they had them out for the people to grab as you left. But we grabbed like 20 of them. And so we have him in our shirt as we're carrying him upstairs. And we put him on a cot that night since he went to bed early. So he didn't get a bed. And we kicked the door in, you know. And everyone starts pelting him with these things. And he jumps up, pissed as hell. And I don't know who he tackled as one of us. And so I guess in our brains that flipped, WWE, you know. So he goes into all-out war at 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning in this 4-star hotel.
He body slams.
Yeah. Anyway, he goes to grab Dave, and they're a little tipsy. And when he picks Dave up,
we're both
they go backwards to go onto the bed. Only he completely misses the bed, and you felt like the whole 4-star was about to come down to the ground. And then it's all war, you know. From that point.
I can still hear Dakota yelling, "Ow!" ow, ow. Every time he
has the most Southern accent you've ever heard in your life. He's like, God, I know. Like, come on. So he might be the topic because a lot of the best stories come from this guy.
From what I found out from talking to as many bands I have, it seems like always when it comes to these wacky tour stories, there's always one person that it revolves around. And there's a lot of times where it's a person that's not on the episode. So it just makes it even better until that person like shows up halfway through the episode. It's like, hey, what do you guys talk about? We're like, stories of you, big guy.
He's going to listen to this and hate us.
Yep.
He might be signing his resignation letter right about now.
Cool. We'll promote him to guest. We got this. So my turn now. I hate you guys. My name's Aaron. I am the rhythm guitar player. Probably my funniest story is going to be like my introduction into the band. Like usually a lot of the chaos and the mischief usually comes from me because I like to have fun. Sometimes, I just don't give a shit and it just ends up becoming like a really fun time, really chaotic time. I barely knew Dave very long before I just up and quit my job, bounced out to Alabama to start the rehearsal for the first tour. But, I got to know the guys, had a few beers and all that. And it was my first band using backing tracks. And I had the brilliant idea to go and mess with our old drummer Alex's backing tracks, because it had like vocal cue-ins and everything like that to, for the count in, whatever the song's going to be. And we totally caught him off guard. And Dave and I spent probably an hour one night just going through the backing tracks, and it's just me drunk doing my Stone Cold Steve Austin impersonation. And I'm just saying all sorts of random shit. And we have our last practice and Alex has no idea about it. And he goes to listen to the backing tracks and he just falls over like dying laughing like in the middle of playing the song and shit because he had no idea what was coming. So one of the biggest songs the band had back in the day was called Walk Again. And so I was like, oh man, Stone Cold Steve Austin walking. I'm like, hey Alex, listen up, bud. I'm about to hit you with the Stone Cold Stunner, and you will never walk again.
It's like click, 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 and you got to play it.
Yeah, so we definitely trolled the hell out of him, and the backing tracks stayed on the entire tour. So every night, we're sitting there looking at him. I know exactly what's going through his ears. I'm just laughing in the middle of his set. There's like one part where I'm like, hey, Alex, look at Dakota's sweet ass. There's a couple surprises in there to definitely catch him off guard, man. But it was cool that lasted with us the entire tour.
I mean, that's just great because it just adds to some sort of like camaraderie, even just through this random little shit thing where all of a sudden you're ready to play, you got the back tracks on, all of a sudden you're just going to hear your Stone Cold Steve Austin impersonation because all of a sudden you're going to end with, and that's the bottom line, because I said so. And then next thing you know, you guys are just busting out, laughing on stage and having to play right then and there. And everyone's wondering, what the fuck is going on? And you're just thinking, you guys don't know what's going on, but let me tell you, it's funny shit.
Oh, yeah. All I know is I can't wait to do it to the next guy.
All right, well, I guess I'm next.
I think so.
Dave, I'm the lead guitar player. And I guess one of my favorite stories from the road, it has to do with Dakota, of course. So, back in, I would say, was it 2017? 2017. It was his first tour.
Yeah.
His first tour. He was probably the greenest.
He was 20.
Yeah, he was 20. He was 20 years old. He missed his college graduation to go on tour with us. And he went to school for music. We love the guy to death, and we give him so much shit, but only we can give him shit. And so anyway, his birthday was happening on tour. This was in May, and so I think we were in Seattle. Somewhere.
No. It was right before
Portland.
It was in Oregon. Yeah. We played Eugene that night. Yeah.
Oh, was it? No.
We played Eugene, and Portland was the next night.
Oh, okay. So
night.
Anyway, we're in Oregon, and so the band we were on tour with that was headlining. They loved Dakota. They just loved his accent. They thought it was hysterical, and he was so green, and everybody knew it. And anyway, so we take him to a strip club. I don't even know if he's ever been to one. Like from where he was in Alabama, I have no idea. But anyway, so we get back to the hotel after a night of drinking at the strip club, got him a couple lap dances. And so we get back to the hotel, and I guess he gets on the phone with his wife. He goes we're at the band who was headlining at their hotel room, and he goes into their bathroom for about maybe half an hour. 45 minutes. So we're all planning to fuck with him at this point. So the singer of that band, he's a pretty big, kind of intimidating guy. Anyway, so he was like, all right, we're going to fuck with him the moment he gets out of there. So he walks out. He's like, dude, you just take a shit in my bathroom? He's like, and Dakota being just so green and new and scared, he'd never been on tour in his life. He was just like, no, man, I didn't take a shit in your bathroom. He's like, dude, you were in there for like at least a half an hour. You took a shit. I know you took. I could smell your shit. And the guy, he was intimidating, dude. He was like being 100% serious.
He was almost yelling.
Yeah, like, he was yelling. He's like, Dakota, you took a shit in my bathroom. He's like, no, I really didn't take a shit. I promise. I just took a fart.
Dude, it was immediately like everybody heard a pin drop. No, you could hear a pin drop. It just
he was so scared that he thought he was being serious for taking. He's like, you don't take a shit in my bathroom. He's like, this is our hotel. You don't ever take a shit in our bathroom.
I got a correction with that though.
All right,
this is before we go to the strip club.
Okay.
He had no idea how much this band loved him.
Right. Yeah.
And it was right after that. He's like, now get on the fucking bus. And he had hired a limo bus to take us to the strip club.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I thought it was.
And then we all go, yeah, it was crazy.
That was a blur night, but
they were great.
That was probably one of my fondest, funniest moments. Like just to witness that real, genuine fear.
I wish we would have had that.
And it was all a joke, but the fact he said, "I didn't take a shit, I took a fart." Oh man, we all lost it.
It was the best. Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay, that is some literal funny shit right there. Just due to the fact that comes out scared as all hell and just, I didn't take a shit, man. I just took a fart, and just because you guys are not expecting him to say something like that.
He was so serious, man. So serious. He thought he was about to get killed.
Oh god.
Well, they hold that back. That laugh while Connor's yelling at him.
You're gonna have to bring him on one day and let him have his redemption.
Right. I feel like we're roasting.
I feel like this is the roast of Dakota.
Definitely I'm gonna have him on at some point and be like, all right, well, Blake, Dave, and Aaron all roasted you, so it's like, Dakota, now it's your turn. What do you got to say about them? And we'll see when he comes up. But watch, he'll have like the nicest stories about you guys. Like, I remember the time Blake did this for me, and Dave did this, and Aaron did this, and it was just made me really feel like I was part of the family. I'm like, this is your chance just to roast him to all hell, man. Come on, what are you doing out here?
He's a good sport, man. When I first came into the band, I completely just called him new guy every chance I had, even though I was the new guy. He just looked at me like,
he was so happy there was a new guy that was under him.
And we immediately treated him like he was still the new guy.
Yeah, but one big thing is the fact that you guys are able to do that just so comfortably with each other, and it's just you guys are able to just roast each other, rip on each other, just have a good time. But in the end, you guys all care about each other. You guys are all like family at this point. So, and that chemistry ends up coming out.
Nobody can talk shit about Dakota but us.
Yeah, and everybody feels it when we're all together. When the four of us together, everybody talks about the camaraderie.
Yeah, it definitely surprises people. People are like, dude, I've been in several bands, and it's always like a hired gun situation. I've never seen people act like brothers and family. Like we hang out a lot. We work together as well. So I mean, it's just one of those things. I guess it just comes natural. We've had a ton of good times, and there's so many more to be had.
It's funny, you see all these bands when they come together, it's work, and then they want to go back to their own separate hotel rooms or whatever, and like we just can't wait to get back together. We haven't seen each other in a while. It's bad if we've been apart for a while. It's really bad. That's how the pandemic was. I remember when we shot the.
I don't know. It might be different now that we all work together.
Yeah, I need a break. But no, during the Creatures video last year, 2020, it was the first time we saw each other since the album, right?
Yeah.
So.
And so it'd been like a 7-month, like in between, and that was
me and Aaron live in Dallas here, and he just got here.
I was in Alabama.
He was in Alabama for the longest time. So there would be 6-7 months worth of gaps before we could. I mean, we were doing things from afar, but we
wouldn't actually physically see each other. So those were crazy times. Those first nights, every time.
Oh, it definitely have to be, because you guys just have this fantastic camaraderie to the point where if you guys are separated for so long, it kind of feels like you're missing out on something. You're missing out on this extra bit of just the brotherhood, just the family vibe that's there. and just that overall friendship, because even during the pandemic as well, it was the same thing with me where at the point when it started, I was still living with my best friend. So we were always hanging out during that time. But then as May hit, he ended up moving somewhere else. I ended up moving where I'm living right now. It's like I still see him every now and again, but it's the amount of times I'd see people that I was seeing people like, okay, I'm seeing you like once a week. I'm seeing you here at this concert. I'm seeing you, just out hanging out. And then all of a sudden it was like, I haven't seen some of these people since that day, like since, late February, early March of 2020. Hell, there's like the people I see concerts with at the rave here in Milwaukee all the time. I haven't seen them since February of 2020. And I miss them. I don't even know what their names are. I just know their face. I know we're always at the same shows. And it's like, I want to see them again. I want to hang out with them. I want to jump into a mosh pit and potentially get completely hurt and completely split my face open once again and love every second of it. Like, I want to do that again.
I think the whole country's sitting that way, probably the whole world. But, here in Texas, they're the first really to open up wide open. And I know we were backstage at the concert a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. First time we saw like kind of a full capacity event happening, and you wouldn't believe, like, it gave me chills like looking around because people were going crazy. I mean, like that crowd was so ready for that, and I'm just so glad that it's starting to come back.
Yeah, and it's just adding this feeling of hope to everybody as well, because again, we're seeing different festival lineups be announced consistently. We're seeing different tours start to be announced. I'm hearing bands from that I'm having on the podcast. It's, we don't have a tour to announce just yet, but there is stuff in the works. They've got offers coming through. So it's the fact that there is hope that this is going to be happening is an incredibly powerful thing to help us just get over that last little bit of, okay, we just got to get to this point when all of a sudden live shows are come back, and then, well, with you guys being in Texas and other places like in Florida, I mean, you guys can just go gung-ho willy-nilly and not give a shit and just get back to normal and just, when you get back to normal and everything's fine. So why can't the rest of us just do this now? Every other state, can we be like Texas and Florida and just, go nuts and be normal again?
Right.
That's what I'm open for. I need that mosh pit. I need it bad. Some people, it's like some people need that kind of meditation just to get through the day. No. I need to hear some heavy music and just get obliterated in the pit and obliterate some people at the same time as well. And of course, at the end of it, everyone's giving each other high fives, hugs. Everyone's just happy to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's literally like their mental escape. Like, like it's part of their therapy. Like most people find concerts as part of their therapy. Going out, socializing. So many people are going through so much because of, like you said, you haven't seen these people in a whole year. Well, some of them have altered their lives entirely now, and you might not ever see them again. Like they're such introverts now because like it's almost scary to come back out again, to some people.
Or they've had to move away.
Yeah. Or they took on some job that they have no free time now because they lost their jobs. We know so many people that's lost their careers, and it's really sad. Hold on.
Red cat bomb. That's not the first time it's happened.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, but to that point, that is definitely true, because even for myself as well, when I was a kid, there was times I was really, extroverted, and there's times I was really shy. I just kind of went through phases, and then from like 2018 to 2019 to like beginning of 2020, I mean, I was always trying to go out and do as much as possible, be as extroverted as all hell. And then when the pandemic hit, it's okay, I still miss that, but I got to find a way to get back to that so that I have that moment in time where I can go back to those concerts, but I can kind of recreate that feeling in some way, the positivity, just that emotional kind of weird therapy that I get from just going to a live show and just letting all those emotions out in a weird way, but also get it so, I'm still connecting with people. And oddly, one of the biggest things that ended up, helped me through that whole entire time was doing this podcast, because I'm just getting to connect with as many bands as possible from all different parts of the world, from South America to the United States to Canada, over to Europe, even like 5 or 6 bands from Australia, one from, was that Malaysia or the Philippines? Shoot, I can't remember, but it's one of them. But it's just like just connecting with as many people as possible and still just enjoying talking to as many bands, as many people. It's helped out so much to the point where there's always two things I think about, like what's that makes me the happiest. 1, going to live shows, getting to a mosh pit, and 2, doing this.
Yeah. And
I'm still doing this, and I've got live shows coming back, and oh god, that second half of 2021 is gonna be nuts. So at the end of the year, you might see me like beaten, battered, and bruised on this thing. Like, okay, guys, it's going to be a little rough because, popped out shoulder, like big giant, like scar right here because I got knocked out in the pit, nose sideways. Kevin, you good? Never better.
I love it.
That's awesome.
I'll say so, like, even during this time, because I know you guys have the 5 music videos out, have you guys been able to play any live shows, especially now that Texas has been completely, like, wide open for the past, like, couple of months at this point?
Not yet. You know, we still got to get our gear. It's still in Alabama. But it's in the works. You know, we're working on a lot of stuff right now. You know, like I said, with the radio stuff, that's doing great. You know, we're kind of one thing at a time. You know, we're working on that hardcore right now, and then the rest is all just been, you know, it's all behind the scenes kind of being negotiated and worked out. But we're just excited things are coming back, and we have those opportunities again, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And I know if there's like stuff that's going on behind the scenes, if nothing is completely finalized yet, you don't want to say anything. I'm not going to push you to be like, oh, what's it going on? Because hell, you guys don't want to say anything. So totally understandable, totally fine. But the radio campaign, especially to push California out there and to try and get more, you know, listens to it, especially having it chart on Billboard, charting number 44 where we're shooting this. Again, hopefully that update comes through during this podcast and we can go all crazy if it hits top 40, which hopefully it will. But one of the biggest questions I have behind that is when it comes to the radio push and the whole campaign, out of every single song that you guys had on Beautiful Chaos, why California is the one that you're pushing right now?
Well, I think it's probably the most radio friendly.
I think the pandemic has something to do with it as well.
Yeah,
you know?
I think so.
There was originally going to be 3.
Yeah, there was going to be 3 of them.
This was supposed to be 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was going to go heavy. I think Creatures was first.
Creatures was
going to be the metal, like the metalcore or metal side. And because of the pandemic, we had to pull that back. And Demon in Disguise was going to be the first like active rock radio push, and it got pulled back as well because of the pandemic. And then California was always the one, man. When we all heard it, even the first time, and like I wouldn't call it a pre-mix. I guess it's a rough.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of played back
January 2020.
I remember when
we wrote that in California.
Yeah, we wrote that in California.
That's why it's called California. We were there because we needed at least one more song on the album, and it was an idea that I had like years ago,
right before Rockfest.
Yeah,
we were going over it at Rockfest in Wisconsin. But when it was done, like when we actually recorded in the studio with Joseph out there in 2020, he sent us a rough mix to our phone, and I remember we listened to that over and over.
I probably listened to it 40 times that night before I went to bed.
It was just addictive.
Like, yeah, when we heard it back in the studio for the first times, we just kind of looked at each other and we're like, wow, that's probably the big one that can kind of put our foot in the door radio wise. I think Wesley knew we had something special and marketable at that point in time. And, you know, that's a very special song to all of us, you know, because it was the last song I believe written for the album. Mm-hmm. And we wrote it in California, you know, hanging out in the living room, him going through vocal patterns, writing different lyrics down. And
probably
everything.
2 days, maybe.
Remember you bought a car out there. We were driving, and I remember writing the verses while we were driving. I just had headphones in while they were doing their thing, and like I was putting myself in that mindset.
I was the only one that flew out there. Everybody drove, and I'm like, we need another car.
Bought a car and drives it back to Texas. But it's probably the most memorable song off the album for all those reasons. You know,
I think anybody
inclusive out there.
I think everybody that hears it, especially, you know, people that we've been working with as far as getting this campaign going, that's the song they were all drawn to.
Oh, absolutely. I can easily see that being the case, too. The biggest reason behind it is just the way the energy flow of that song is. And I think that's why you guys really would latch onto it, especially when you got that first rough mix, because it's a real fun song to listen to, but it doesn't have that like overtly just like, oh, this is going to be fun, this is going to be great, yay kind of feel. It's just a fun hard rock song to listen to that has a good amount of pace behind it. And when I'm thinking about different rock stations as well, radio-wise, I mean, this song does have the legs to still go on Sirius XM Octane. But when you're thinking about all those like hard rock stations that you find across the country, like here in Wisconsin, example 102.9 The Hog, it's something that I could easily see being played on there. And again, just garnering a larger radio play. It could be played on a heavier station, played on more of just like this straight, you know, more hard rock kind of station. So it definitely has the legs to just really expand everywhere it can possibly go within the rock and sometimes even more metal realms as well. It's like, oh, it's a little bit of a lighter style from a metal taste, but it does have that energy flow that a lot of people that love metal, have metal and metalcore as well, that really could get into.
It actually, originally had a very heavy part.
It was supposed to be very heavy.
It was supposed to be kind of poppy heavy. It had a really heavy, almost I would say kind of genty feel, like
it had some nastiness.
It had some nastiness to it originally, and we all loved it. Like Joseph McQueen loved that part. When we decided to strike it, Normally it's the producer that's striking everything.
Yeah, he's normally the one that wants it more mainstream.
He was saying we needed to keep it because it separated that kind of,
feel good, I guess
because the whole album has its, heaviness to it. But he really did not want us to get rid of that. But for some reason, it just wasn't sitting with us. Every time we heard it, it was a kind of like, it had like a lot of chug. Like after the first chorus, it'd go into it, and then the breakdown before the solo, it went right into it, made a big heavy part. But the more and more we listened to it, we cut it out. And at the end of the day, Joseph was like, that's the best option, because I still made the guitar solo kind of chaotic, so like he was like, at least there's still some chaos going there, because it's honestly the softest song on the album, but it's got the most technical, most difficult guitar solo on the album. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Because like I absolutely love the way you did the solo here. If you see my head turn, it's because I wrote down like 3 pages of notes on this song. So I'm just trying to make sure I get it right. I always say this all the time, but like when I listen to the solo, because that guitar, you play with like a higher pitch to give off like more of that shred quality to the solo as well, to add to it. It's what I was actually more interested with, how the drumming in the back end up amplifying the overall solo, because it sounds like the drums were also somewhat soloing with more of like a fill pattern in the back, just to really create this overall more dynamic sound. It increases the overall energetic flow of the song and perfectly gives more energy to the second half of the song as you guys were working to build up in the first half. So you really got that payoff going into that solo and then really completed it at the end of it.
I think the best part of that is it was the most current song to date at that time that we had written. Remember, Joseph was like so surprised. He was like, because some of these songs were written all the way back to 16, when he joined.
And Beautiful Chaos, the first song, was the first song we ever wrote together in 2016.
That's actually how he came into the band. He's like, hey, I have this. You think we could do something with it? and boom, Beautiful Chaos happened. But that's what Joseph said. He's like, this album is a culmination of 5 years or 4 years at the time. And he's like, if this is where y'all are at right now, that's huge.
Creatures was right before that.
Creatures was there, and then California, and then most recently we wrote The Hate back in like August of 2020. So
which is not on the album.
Yeah, but I mean, every time we write, we feel like we're going up a notch above, a little bit, and we learn so much as we go. And, this studio experience, we used Joseph back in 2013 for the album before as well, and it was just night and day, difference coming into the second one. It's just so much experience as you build,
Oh, absolutely. And it's just, again, I totally understand where you're coming from, but even listening to the rest of the album as well, I know you're saying this is definitely like the lightest song on the album, but the reason why it fits so well is just, I keep saying energy flow because that's always one big thing that I'm a huge fan of. And when it comes to music, especially more the hard rock, punk rock, metalcore kind of style that I'm very in tune with, all three of those, it's just, even though it's a lighter sound, it just flows so perfectly with energy that it stands out on its own. But if you listen to the whole entire album run through, it's going to have this whole entire dynamic feel going through it with many different styles that are touched on. But when you get to this one, it's like, oh, this is the lightest track overall, but it still has that energy pickup, still has that flow that perfectly fits along with every other song. So it feels like it absolutely belongs on the record, and it belongs as like a standout point at the same time due to that difference.
I agree. I mean, you don't hear many active rock like hard ballads that have double bass. But you don't even really notice it until somebody tells you, hey, there's double bass on this song. You don't realize that, it doesn't feel like that. It feels more mainstream. I think the only one that could really match would be maybe Reignite, which that one was
the last song on the album.
That one came out of left field. It was originally a different title.
I wrote that song in 2016 before I never showed them the song. I showed you the song, I think, once.
Yeah, way back.
Just that it's a shell of what it is now. 100%. I mean, the idea is there of how I originally wrote it, but what Joseph did to it.
Yeah, well, I think it was called Ballad of the Broken. And it was meant to just be like a filler track on the album because we knew we needed, some space. And what happened was I got
don't
really
pillars,
sick.
bro.
Yeah, well, no, I got really sick while we were in the studio, and they made me take like 4 or 5 days off because if you even develop a cough, it'll ruin the whole thing. So I was like bed rest, and they were still going to the studio. And Joseph, just with his extra time, was just playing while none of us were there.
There was that melody that
and he turned it into this, oh my God, like this huge pop like intro and that, and then made it
very Bring Me the Horizon.
So what we did my verses, and we get to the chorus, and I do my like dumbed down chorus I was gonna do because it's supposed to be a filler song. Dude, I was making it just be like a ballad, And he's like,
have it build.
No. he's like, you're gonna go home tonight and you're gonna make this course big. He's like, we're gonna change this. And so remember, I was still sick.
Blake was so frustrated too. That's one of the things I remember because the original lyrics, I know they had a big meaning to Blake, and then as it became something else, like Blake, he kind of struggled with the idea of having to start over. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when you see people in the studio with like Adam D from Killswitch Engage and hits the button, he's like, nope, do it again. It wasn't even nope, do it again. It was nope, you need to take time off, redo this whole thing, come back, And
he's like, it's got a soar, your voice is too low. Because it was low, it was going to be in the verse level.
Yeah.
But it wasn't meant to be that big of a song. And the production made it into something else,
That's my favorite song.
Oh yeah,
but,
I love it now.
Like the context of the song, kind of talks about like overcoming, at least to my interpretation. And to see Blake go from his frustrated state to absolutely kick the shit out of that song and get the message across, like kind of exactly what he was talking about, we saw come into motion through his process of redoing his part for the song. So that was pretty cool.
But also on top of that takes a lot of trust from all you guys, the band, along with your producer as well, and again, you're taking some time off just to make sure your voice is good to go outside of just, don't want to have a cough ruin everything. And just the fact that you guys were able to play around with it. And it's like, okay, I understand that the song was very important to you, especially with the lyrical content, with the way you're trying to portray the message. However, the song is kind of taking on a life of its own, and we want you to roll with it at the same time. Sure, you might have been disappointed because you wanted to put out this certain message the way you wanted to put it out. But the fact that, again, through the chaos, you're able to lean right into that and just take it as it comes and let it naturally progress and just literally take hold of the reins and go for it. That just speaks volumes about not only you, Blake, but also the rest of you guys as a band as well. That trust, that camaraderie, again, is just shining bright right here.
When we went into the studio to do the album, I mean, there's so many songs that we've written together that we were so passionate about. But my biggest thing going in, and I stressed it on everyone, and they all stressed it on me, the same thing, because there was times where we were really frustrated. But the whole idea of going to California to do this album that we were hoping was going to be as good as it is, in my opinion, was to go in with an open mind.
Of course.
To whatever happens, let's just
whatever's best for the song.
Whatever's best for the song,
best for the album,
and to to not let it take control of making it a great song. Don't let my ego or his ego or anybody's ego get in the way. Let's just, and that's what we did. We literally, every single time we got a song back, we sat down, we analyzed it, and we picked everything we loved about it. And 99.9% of the time, we all picked the same thing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow as a creative person, when you put a lot of energy into something and it doesn't work. Every album we've ever done, every song we've ever done, there's so many parts that you never hear, and that somebody was attached to. But you learn to give and, give and take. Mm-hmm. And on that one, I think the reason I was so frustrated is because I knew it before I even sang the vocals that day, because I was like, this chorus is huge now. And I was like, I have this little monotone thing going, And so I knew going in, and I think that's why I was so frustrated. But at the same time, I knew my voice. I didn't know if I would even be able to hit the high notes needed for that. And I remember you were playing Call of Duty like all night. And I was sitting on the couch, probably bugging the shit out of it. But I was like, I just kept it playing, and I was humming a melody until I found a big chorus,
Yeah, when it clicked, I remember putting the controller down. And I was like, "That's it, dude. Take that a little bit higher." And he's like,
I thought I can't do it. I was like, I physically can't do it. I was like, I can't do this tomorrow, because it was the next day is when we're recording the chorus. And I was telling them, I was like, I've got the vocals, I've got the melody, but I don't think I can do it. And then we walked in that vocal booth. I chugged like a gallon of water, and we hit it. The only thing is the very last note I hate. We did. It was supposed to go one notch higher, and I was just too hoarse to hit it. And that was just the very end. But man, that song turned into a very powerful song. So.
But you guys did something that I've consistently brought up on this podcast. Well, so everyone listening will know that I bring it up, where when it comes to just writing these songs, just letting it happen, the fact you guys just said whatever happens, happens, and you let everything progress naturally and not try to force anything, it lets you come out with a dynamic element, lets these songs build on their own so that you can see what you're doing kind of subconsciously to make these songs the way that you want to make them. And then whatever message you're trying to portray, you're portraying it through your own self, through your own emotions, and you're letting us know all about that. So then as listeners, we can connect with you a little bit deeper, a little bit more on a personal level, because we're understanding the emotions that you're going through with whatever you're talking about, whatever story you're trying to portray on that song. And then we can relate it to our own lives and see how we match up with those emotions through different aspects of our own lives, to the point where all of a sudden now we can understand even more of what we're going through, what we're dealing with, and potentially understand maybe some more things about if we have anxiety, depression, if we're happy, why are we happy? Why do we feel this jubilation kind of feel, and just enjoy? It's something that's incredible. But the fact that you guys are able to do that and just let everything happen naturally is what brings a lot of power, a lot of dynamics, and a lot of variety to this album.
All I can say is if you have an idea for an album and you do it exactly like that, it's not going to be as rewarding or fun if you go in and you do it and it's better than you imagined.
Yeah.
No, there's just a different energy that you harness when it's kind of like on the fly. You know what I mean?
Because if we did it exactly how we wrote it, to me, it wouldn't be nearly as good.
No. Joseph cut out so many parts.
That's why it's great to be open-minded and to just let it happen, because it turned out 10 times better, in my opinion.
Joseph will be like,
than it was when we came in with it.
Joseph will come in like, musically, this is fucking amazing. But the listeners aren't going to get that. They're not musicians. They're like, scratch. And you're like, you can't be hurt by that. And it is hard to swallow, but the more you do it, the more you're like, the more you start to write without that. know, and I feel like he's helped mold us with our writing too, because we're just like, oh, that's a dead part. Scratch it.
Yeah, and that could go not only just for you guys, but for anybody listening with anything that you're doing that's something for yourself, something that's creative, something that's artistic, where you just kind of let it happen the way it happens and go with the flow. Because if you try and force something on top of it, you're going to end up kind of creating something that's going to feel forced, sound forced, and it's not going to give the full range of what you want it to give off. I mean, I've talked about music as well. And then when it comes to taking that kind of criticism where it's like, okay, this isn't working, maybe we should try this, taking those suggestions and keeping an open mind, because you just have a closed mindset. You're just going to try and focus on what you think the idea should be and just fully focusing on it. I mean, if it's the right idea, it works, but that's, it's a very small portion, because it could be just, you could have the idea, but it has to be just like one step to the right, and a different idea could just open you up to these possibilities. The next thing you're going to end up, if you're making videos on YouTube, you just try something a little bit different. All of a sudden you're blown up. Take a look at Finn McKenzie from the Punk Rock NBA, because he was doing all these like different business videos. And all of a sudden he does a video on why did Bring Me the Horizon get so big in 2018. And all of a sudden his channel just blows up after that. And he just kind of leans right into it. And it could be with anybody. It could be just different things with quality. I mean, you could have the right idea, but it could just be just like, you have to just kind of step over just a little bit with that idea, try something new, and bing, bang, boom, it could be the biggest thing in the world. But being able to take that kind of open-mindedness and take those suggestions and see, okay, what is like your producer talking about? What are you guys talking about? And just seeing how this can really come to the fold and just really create something even grander. Being open to that is absolutely incredible. And again, it takes a lot of trust as an artist to let that happen, because you might put a lot of stock in these songs. You might put so much emotion in these songs and you want to have them be the way they are. And someone's like, oh, someone's trying to manipulate them, but it might be for the best in the end. You just got to be open to it and just really see where they're coming from, because then you can understand it. Maybe they don't even have the right idea, but maybe they're on the right path. And then you have to take it one step further. And then next thing you know, you got a killer song on your hands.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's the best advice I could give to anybody.
With everything in this industry, it's thick skin. You can't take it home with you. Like things are said and you can't take it personal because everybody has so much experience that they bring to the group, and nobody's trashing the other person, they're just trying to make it the best it can be. And that's what happens is somebody will tell me the melody needs to change. We'll say, hey, what if we did this with the guitars? It doesn't, it's nothing personal. It's not an attack.
Or if I tell Dave to just change the face he's making because I don't like it,
Which I will change the face.
Which is often change the face.
It'll go from super stern to just big old smile and go from this to this. I could easily, but yeah, that is a very good thing to bring out with advice to other artists that are trying to get into the scene as well, or just trying to break through. Is you're going to get people that have had more experience than you and are going to bring up certain suggestions because they want to work through, they want to make these songs even bigger than you could possibly imagine them. And it's not necessarily taking every single suggestion that comes your way, but being open to those suggestions, seeing what happens. Because if you're writing a song and all of a sudden someone brings up a suggestion, give it a shot, give it a try. If it doesn't work, then you can always go back to where you were and try something new again. But if it does work, then you can keep exploring that option. It's why not give it a shot? It might take the creative process longer, but in the end, you're going to end up being more satisfied with the overall end product that you create.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyone listening that's trying to get into this, that's exactly what I would tell them. How many times did you have a riff that we were like, oh my God, that's the best riff ever, and we end up having to cut it? It doesn't make it not any more badass. We just have that for later on. You know what I mean?
For the next
we'll just build another song. How many bands do you know that have made a career off of similar but different? That's it keeps your sound, so we got a riff for later, when we don't use it then. And so it's never a slight, it's just what's best in the current moment. And we feel like this album completely came together. It tells a story from beginning to end. We thought the placement was perfect, the order of the songs. So
yeah,
we're proud of it.
A lot of the process of this band was chaos, but it was all beautiful. It's beautiful chaos now, so it's pretty funny.
Hands down.
And just taking, again, the fact that you guys basically thrive in that kind of chaos. Even with the pandemic, it's, oh boy, chaos, how do we lean right into this and just have some fun with it and just really take all of it? It's that positive outlook, that positive mindset, which is going to keep the band growing and growing and keep making the music even better and better, grander and grander, even more dynamic. To one thing that you guys did say was the way that the tracks are placed on this album. Again, with the way things in the world are today, the way people consume music through streaming services, it seems like people are just like, okay, I like this song, I'm just going to listen to this one. But I'm always saying, again, when artists put out albums, listen to the whole album through and through. Actually invest the time in it, because you might find something that you absolutely love later on that you probably wouldn't have noticed if you're just like, oh, I'm just going to listen to the singles and that's it, or listen to what's popular and that's it. No. If you go through everything, you can literally feel like a story going through and through and just really take a whole part of it. Because there was I'm trying to think of another band that I've interviewed, Stepson. They're out of Australia. They had a whole entire album where they just took a look at like themselves and just were going through all these different aspects of like a relationship where it's like, okay, you're the one that's not okay. I'm the one that's not okay. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And just feeling the story go on. I'm like, holy shit, I'm glad I'm listening to this everywhere, because all the different emotions that you're feeling, it's absolutely intense. And the artists put it out that way because they're trying to tell this story, they're trying to tell this message, or they're trying to have you feel this sound in a certain way. So why not invest in it and go through it? Because you might find out something about yourself that you had no idea of. And it's all thanks to really investing your time into going through the album from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's what kind of ruins the current landscape is singles only, and it's hurting the albums. But the albums tell a story, and we put them in an order where it's just like reading a book. I mean, it tells a lot about us as a band. If you just listen to all 10 in a row, on the previous album did the same thing, and we're proud of that.
There's not one I'm not happy with.
No, I mean, we could have potentially went to radio with every song on that album, whether it's metal or active rock radio. And it's just such a shame that, like you said, a lot of people don't listen to it in that order anymore. There's a lot of songs that will be skipped, and lost my train of thought on that.
Yeah, anyway. But yeah, it's just going to be somewhere people are just going to end up, you lose a lot of the magic of an artist's work and an album and their sound if you just really don't go through that album just from front to back. Because there are certain things where you might listen to, it's like, oh, you listen to a certain song, and if it's like you listen to that song is like, if it was a single, what the hell? Why am I listening to this thing? This makes no sense to even be on here. This band completely changed the sound up, something like that. But that's the only song that's like that on the album. And the way that the album is constructed from top to bottom, it just absolutely makes sense at that point. Another example of that is While She Sleeps with their album Sleep Society, because their last track is like, it's just this soft piano thing where all the guys are just kind of talking over it. I'm like, if you listen to this as a single, you'd be wondering what the hell the guys were talking about. But if you go through the whole entire run through the album, when you get to that last part, you get that last song, it's like 7 minutes long, and it's just the guys are just talking at one point at a time. It's like the lead singer and the lead guitarist, rhythm guitarist, bassist, drummer. But you're hearing the way that it's being spoken. And if you listen to the album from top to bottom, you get to that point and it's a huge payoff in the end. If you listen to it as a single, it doesn't make any sense. You have to go through it from top to bottom to really feel the power that's behind something like that. And it's a huge art that is lost in terms of listenership because, again, it's the way the world is. People are streaming just one song. If you like it in the first 10 seconds, you like it, you listen to it maybe once or twice or 1,000 times. And if you listen to a song, it's like, oh, I don't like the first 10 seconds. Then you just completely write it off unless someone you trust is like, hey, listen to this song. And then they play the rest of it for you and you absolutely love it. Just, I always say, invest the time in it. It is something that is worth it. You're going to find out more about the artist and find out more about yourself than you even knew was possible if you do something like that.
Yeah, it's 100%. A lost art. And that's what I was going to go to is, no artist has the funds to, put out 10 music videos and 10 radio campaigns, even though you could. I mean, all the songs are there, but, you can't do that. And so it's hard to reach the masses anymore the way it used to be. Like we grew up on, you waited for an album to come out and you listen to the whole thing, 150 times, our favorite albums. We listened to where we knew every little sound, every little scratch on the album, but it is a lost art, but I'm glad that bands are still doing it because there's those out there that still appreciate it,
Yeah, when I was a kid, that's one of the things I really looked forward to is just listening to the entire CD, front to back. And, usually it leads off an initial single when somebody's making a hard push. But one thing I enjoy doing was listen to the whole thing and I could pick out like, okay, probably think these are going to end up being singles on it and watch as, that progress evolves. You know what I mean? That's still something I do to this day.
Yeah, that's something I still do as well. I mean, I was talking about other ones. And another one that I remember was back in 2017 when Rise Against released the Wolves album. The song and the last song on it called Miracle. I'm like, this is the most underrated song this band potentially could ever have. It's absolutely fantastic. The way it's constructed, the way the lyrics have the poetry behind it. And why aren't people listening to this? Because it's at the end of the album. It's the last song on there. And it's great on its own, but it's even better when you go through the whole entire album and you get to that payoff point right at the end. And it's like, oh man, this could have been perfect as a single. They should have totally put this out and tried to push it, but why has no one really listened to it? It's because of the way people consume music these days. And again, when it comes to it, I understand it. You kind of have to just lean into that and just work with it. But I'm still glad that bands are putting out albums as well because you're seeing more from these bands. You're hearing this story. You're hearing this passion behind it that just adds more to it than if you're just getting a single that just kind of, it has to stand on its own. At that point, it has to stand on its own. If it's not going to be this immensely huge thing, it could potentially be considered a failure and a setback for the band, given the way that people consume music primarily these days.
Even the CEO of Spotify, he spoke out. He was saying, hey, it's the singles world. Singles is what you should be putting out. That's how you're going to get rewarded on Spotify. And that. At the same time, I love the albums because I feel like that's where you get the personality of the band. Because, I love that bands are still putting out full albums because that's how we tell our stories, and if we're just a single oriented thing, how are you really going to get to know us as a group? You wouldn't, we'd all be just radio driven, and that's why there's so much diversity on that album, and like it's, if you go and listen to California and you're like, oh, that's so mainstream, I hate that. And then you go listen to the album, you'll think it's a whole different band,
Yeah, it's weird. The analogy I would look at is like, there's books that are comprised of several chapters. Nobody's out there just buying one chapter. People still like the books in its entirety, and it's just like, dude, just read our damn book.
Exactly. That's exactly what this is.
That might be the best way I've ever heard an album described. It's like a book, and it's just, you're not going to buy one chapter of a book. It's like, it's kind of like, like a micro pay kind of thing. It's like, oh, you open up an app, it's like, oh, you get this for free, but if you want to progress, you got to pay $2.99 for it. It's like, no, just listen to the whole album. You're not going to want to just get it in bits and pieces. No, listen to the whole entire thing. You're going to want to enjoy that story because you're not going to want to just read the first book of Harry Potter, read the first chapter, and find out that the boy hasn't gone to Hogwarts yet.
I love the first 35 seconds of chapter 5. I mean, you're not going to play it on TikTok over and over.
Holy shit. Okay, I'm definitely using that as an analogy from here on out because that just makes it makes total sense, and it just puts it in another perspective because everyone has a certain book or a certain story that they read either as an adult, as a teenager, as a kid that they absolutely love, they absolutely understand. And it's like you don't want to just read just one part of it. You want to read the whole entire thing. You want to get through the whole entire thing. Even for me, because one of my favorite books is Animal Farm by George Orwell. If I got to the first chapter, I'm like, what's going on with the animals? Like, everything seems perfect. They rebelled against the humans. There's so much more in that book that you just have, like, you need to read the whole fucking thing, man.
Don't watch the movie.
No, if you want to watch like the best production I've seen of it, just watch the music video for Nature of the Beast by Ice Nine Kills because it's all based on the book and they do a pretty good job detailing it in about three and a half minutes.
I need to watch that. Yeah. I just recently found them. I like that.
Man, I found them in 2019. I was like, okay, I'm kind of slowly into them. Like, I listened to like 2 songs. I'm like, okay, I'm not the biggest fan of them. I went to go see them live, and it just completely changed my mind. I was like, holy fucking shit.
They were actually the first national band that one of my old bands ever played with. So that was pretty cool to see where they started back then to see where they are now. It's like, oh yeah, they didn't give up, man.
Yeah. I love horror movies. I've watched pretty much everything you can imagine. And so I love how they keep progressing with it and they keep telling their own kind of story, their own backstory with it, with Spencer and them. So yeah, it's really cool now that I've kind of dove into them. I've watched some of their live shows on YouTube. I know that doesn't do any justice, but I was like, wow, they look really fun, really good. I bet the energy is incredible. Any band where you hear the crowd singing every word, that tells you something. So I want to be a part of that. I haven't gotten to see them live yet.
If you get a chance, by God, you definitely have to go and see them live. I went to go see them. It was because they were headlining that tour. They played for 2 hours. They played 19 songs total.
Really?
And awesome. it was something where with that kind of a band, it didn't matter how you like to consume live shows when you're there. However you like to do it, no matter what, you're gonna have a great time because they have the heaviness, the energy, and the fast pace to make the pit absolutely insane. If you don't want to be in the pit, but you want to be in the crowd and like the energy, people are constantly moving back and forth. It's kind of like you're like stationary pinball in a way, but it's fun as all hell. Or if you just want to kind of sit back a little bit, but watch the stage performance because all the guys are dressed as horror movie characters. There's so much going on stage. The presence is absolutely incredible. So no matter what, you're going to end up seeing a great show no matter how you want to see them. And I'm glad they're going to Blue Ridge this year because I'm heading out there. I'm like, yeah, I don't care who else is playing at that time. I'm going to make sure I see him. Even my friends will be like, oh, we're going to go see this band. I'm going to see Ice Nine Kills. See ya. I'm out.
Awesome. That lineup looks incredible.
No, I'm still waiting to see like the other headliners that come out because I've heard other rumors of, like the headliners that they haven't announced. I'm like, well, when we're shooting this, I'm like, please be right because I've heard some, but like the fact that the Ghost Inside is playing that like one of the nights, I'm just like, oh my God.
There's so many spots still open on that, so we have fingers crossed too, we're in the submissions on that. So that one looks stellar.
So if you guys are in the submissions on that, hopefully by the time this comes out, all of a sudden I see, because I have a bunch of those like people that work at Blue Ridge and work for the festival. For some reason, I'm friends with them on Facebook. I have no idea how this ends up happening, but like I'm just seeing who they're adding. I'm just seeing all the bands there. I'm like, holy shit, there's so many of these great bands, and it's just I keep seeing it's like you have the mid tier, which is just pretty much like almost all released by the time we're shooting this. But then there's like the top tier and the headliners that there's like half and half. And then there's like the bands that are really up and coming and really the ones you're going to want to watch out for. And that's still like maybe 30 or 40% full. So if you guys got your submission in, fingers crossed, toes crossed, anything else you can cross, we got to cross it, man. We got to hope.
Yeah, that'd be a fun one. Definitely. That lineup is only going to get better. You can already tell. Whoever's booking it, it's wow, dude, it's so good. Like, and you can tell that this is exactly what you needed after a pandemic. We mentioned earlier when we first started the Octane group, and that's all I see they're talking about. Everybody's like, who's flying out for Blue Ridge? Like it's going to be over the top. That's going to be the one to be at. Even if we're not playing it, we should be there.
Oh yeah, if you guys aren't playing, definitely give it a shot and head on out to Blue Ridge because it's somewhere again with all the bands that are going to be there. Even if you're just attending as a fan, just the fact you're going to be able to just see all these different bands, all these different live shows, and just enjoy for 4 whole days. I mean, come on, you can't say no to that.
Especially after what we've all been through as a global unit, like in the metal and hard rock community, we need this. And so I'm glad that everyone's about to get one hell of a festival.
Yeah, we need to get back and be with our hard rock heavy metal family. And I do have a request in to actually interview the CEO of the Blue Ridge Rock Fest. And they told me in an email, wait till more of the lineup gets released and then come back, because I think they just don't want, like, all of a sudden, if I'm going to do an episode with him, he's going to talk about potentially artists that haven't been announced yet. And then by the time I put out the album, if those artists haven't been announced yet, then I could be in some trouble. And they just kind of don't want, or they could be in trouble too, and they just don't want to put any kind of pressure on that, which I totally understand. But I want to talk, I'd be like, how the hell did you guys make this happen? Because this is nuts.
It's insane.
And then I can also be like, hey, you ever heard this band BrokenRail? Can you get them on? I think that'd be great.
All right, so I just got the charts. We went from 44 to 42 on Billboard. So
all right.
We're moving up.
Still moving up.
But Foundations, the secondary market, we added 414 spins, which is incredible. And we went from 43 to 35 on the charts there.
There we go. Big round of applause. Yes, I'm going to do the whole entire round of applause thing. There we go. Yes, we're going to. Some say love it is a river. Something like that.
Oh, we can move it up too. We'll be top 40.
We're getting there.
Moving up, just keep going. And honestly, I know one of the big things too is that Octane Group. I mean, I've seen them push Any Given Sin. I've seen them push Saul up the charts as well. If there's a way we could just get like Joel Fon, be like, hey, can we get behind these guys? I mean, if that guy just kind of like starts making a little campaign behind on the Octane Group to push it, you're gonna start seeing people tweet about it to like Octane. You're gonna start seeing other people tweet about it to other different radio stations, request it. That could also be a big help as well.
Yeah, but there's a whole second leg to the campaign that's coming. We will have the official video will be coming, and we'll announce that soon. I think it'll be closer to the end of May, but we are going to Octane as well. So Octane will come soon. I think they wanted more traction before, so as the time this comes out, maybe we're headed to Octane. That's when we want to get the whole group behind it. So we want to make a hard push there.
Yeah, because I think this podcast will come out sometime in early June, so that might be the perfect timing to like add that on top of everything. Just all of a sudden you get this little podcast with the guys talking about the song, talking about the album. Then you get a nice little Octane push with the group, and all of a sudden you get Joe Alfano going, charge!
Yeah, I love Joe, man. We've known Joe for a little while now, and like he's helped a lot over the last, I guess, year since I met him. So he's really cool. So.
One of the best dudes I've met. Haven't had the chance to meet him personally. I've talked to him a couple of times through Messenger. I've had a couple of phone calls with him. He was one of the best guys, and he gave me some like constructive criticism on things, but it's something like, you know what? I'd rather take constructive criticism, and again, like you guys said, take it with that open mindset, because maybe he's onto something. Maybe he's seen something that I don't, and just if and then analyze it and figure out maybe the dude's right. Give it a shot, see what happens, because he gave me a couple ideas and I ran with them, and the ideas ended up working because I kind of looked at him and I said, you know what? I like the ideas. I like where his headspace is at. I think the same thing as him. Now let's put it into practice and execute it. And bing, bang, boom. Now I'm doing like this episode for me is my 188th. So yeah, some of those ideas definitely worked out when I talked to him back in August of 2020.
But dude, if he has such an eye for talent, if you look at who he's working with, every one of them are on the ladder right now. So.
Oh, absolutely. Because have you guys ever had a chance to be the band of the week or the band, like the highlight band for those 2 weeks?
It's coming up. I don't know if I'm allowed to disclose.
I'll put it this way, because again, this podcast I'm slated to come out in sometime like early June. If it's not going to be at that time, and then don't say it. If it's going to be later, then we'll just say later.
Yeah, it's a little later.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, it's because I've seen the bands that he's pushed on there. It's like trying to think. I've seen King Collapse push on there. Saul was pushed on there. Another Day Dawns, As Strange as Angels, Varsity. Because I came from Joey as well. I'm like, holy shit!
I don't know how much y'all know them, but like these are all up and coming that are about to make a lot of noise.
Yeah, so even like I look at him like, oh shit! Like I get ideas off of that.
Joe's in everybody's camp though. Joe's just awesome, and
obviously Another Day Dawns.
I really don't even know where Joe came from. He just showed up, and he's helped so many people. So it's really cool, man. And he's got that group just on fire. That is my favorite group on Facebook. I log in to go see what everybody's got to say, because it's so many like-minded people just like us, and you actually can see it from an actual fan's point of view. Everything is from their point of view. And it gives you a whole different perspective because, we're in our little creative circle and we understand instruments and we understand what's happening in the arrangement, and they don't. And so it's fun to hear how they explain something where we could easily explain it to each other. And they're like in this, they're just trying to put it into words. And you see how simple it all is on their end. And I think that's why songs like California works best, is because it's very simple. They don't have to think. It's just going to flow, and they hear the lyrics and they relate, and that's the best.
It is too. I like every day when I like log on to Facebook, so I'll be on there multiple times during the day, just doing all the stuff I have to post on there. There's all the stuff I'm connected with, talking to different people. And it's usually like for the first 5 posts I see every single day are from the Octane group. And it's like, okay, let's see what's going on here. Who's going out to Blue Ridge? Who's listening to this? Who's listening to this? What do you guys think of this band? Just all these different questions. Like even when I first got joined into that group, like one of my first questions was, what are bands that are like up and coming right now that you guys are really into? Because I want to get ideas for potentially who to interview on the podcast. I got 60 or 70 different ideas, and I've probably interviewed about half of them already. I'm like, holy shit, let's just keep rolling through here. Because it's something that's incredible, because even some of the bands, I'm like, yeah, some of these bands are bigger than like I would assume, but then there are some that's like they fit that perfect mold. It's like, okay, not many people know about them yet. That's the key, yet. And it's just, holy shit, how many people just really get behind it, because that group just keeps growing and growing and growing. And yeah, I don't even know where Joe came from. I'm almost certain that Joe is just like an angel that came down from heaven out of nowhere just to help out all these great rock and metal bands get known. I swear.
That's just all, and it's like, hey, man, I can help. I dig you. Let's do something. And it's really cool, man. But yeah, everybody in that group, they're so cool, man. They're so open to up and coming bands, and they're so supportive. And I want them to understand what that means to us fans on that level. We don't have those hundreds of thousands of dollars behind us. We don't have that, but we have to come out like we do. We have to make everything on that level. And so their support and them coming in and showing that support, I mean, it does everything for a band like us, and they have so much power when they buy merch, when they join a live show, when they come to a show and spend money. That's not going, to Live Nation. That's going to create the next song, and it keeps the band moving forward. And I like that they understand that. They understand. I remember which band it was. One of them, I know the lead singer, he works for UPS. And so cool, seeing that, like his song's on Octane up in the top 10 on the Biggins Countdown, and he's in his UPS truck and he's like, look, this is what I got to do. But people like you are helping me start to get away from that,
Yeah, it was No Resolve.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I had him on the podcast before too.
Yeah. But I mean, isn't that crazy? And I like that the fans see that and they realize that their contributions really do take people to that next level. It's so important to have that family, that band family that helps propel you in your career. And they have absolutely the power to do that with every one of those bands, including us. So.
Yeah, because like I said, like bands like, especially the two that stick on my mind most are Saul and Any Given Sin, because it seems like anytime Any Given Sin comes out with a new song, like that Octane group is just pushing hard against like Grant Random and Katie Babb, like, we got to play this song, we got to request this thing. It's incredible to see, and I've tried like with other bands that aren't necessarily in that group, like I've tried saying, hey, if you guys got a group that can really, you guys can like galvanize to kind of just push for a radio campaign like this in sort of a organic kind of way, holy shit, I've seen this work. And I'm like, here are a couple examples. And I always bring up the Octane group because that is the biggest example that I have, where it's just people they love the music they listen to. They love the music that's on the platform, and they love all the bands that are showing up, like you guys and every other band that we've ended up mentioning before. But the thing that Blake ended up saying that really stuck out was, again, you're seeing the bands in more of a personal light, where you're seeing that these guys aren't the guys that have millions upon millions of dollars. They're not the guys living in mansions. They're not the Metallicas of the world. It's these guys are just like us. These guys are just trying to make it work and trying to make their dreams come true, just like a lot of us are. You're seeing that, and it's just fantastic to really get behind that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a character trait that you'll see in a lot of people, that just push through the strife and the chaos, man. It's grinding, you know what I mean? Every moment of every day in each capacity to make it all work, to make the equation make sense,
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing too, I'm going to be very curious to see is, like, of course, like what Blake was saying, where these fans, they end up going out to the shows. Well, the people in the fan club, they end up going out to the shows. They're buying your merch, and when they're buying tickets like trying to buy them straight from you. They're not trying to go like give all the money to Live Nation, not putting down Live Nation because they do end up doing a great thing in terms of getting as many people at many shows as possible. But when it comes to just supporting the artists as directly as possible, hey, if you're able to get tickets right from you or right from the acting group or buy merch off it, holy shit, that money's all going straight to you guys. Or pre-order the albums as well when they come out, because that's better than streaming. Trust me on that one.
Yeah, I mean that's
100%.
that's the life's blood, you know, to the being that is the band, or anybody's band for that matter. You know?
Absolutely. So also one thing I do want to say for everyone that is listening to the podcast right now, one thing I will do is if you have listened and you've about the group with the Octane group, and you connect with that group and you're like, holy shit, I want to be a part of that because I want to connect with as many people that love rock music, that are open to just all the new stuff that's coming out, all these bands that are really going to be the biggest bands by the end of the decade, and just be part of a community that loves rock and metal music. I'll include a link in the description for the SiriusXM Octane fan group. You can request to join, and we'll take it from there pretty much so that we can grow that group. We can make it even bigger and better than it already is and continue the greatness that it's doing. And then that means we're just going to become even a greater force of nature, so that when bands like BrokenRail, when bands like Kingdom Collapse, Another Day Dawn, The Strangers Angels, Varsity, Awake at Last, No Resolve. I mean, there's even more that I could even put in there. Sleep Signals is another one. That Any Given Sin, Saul, holy shit, I could keep going and going and going, honestly. But when these bands show up, it's like, hey, can we get behind these bands and can we get some support behind them to get them pushed on SiriusXM Octane? Can we get them on the Big Guns Countdown? Can we get them here? Can we get them there? We're just going to keep going forward, and we're just going to end up becoming this like gigantic group to the point where you can't ignore us. We're going to get these bands the help they would need and the help they deserve.
I love that.
So yeah, also, again, I have to keep saying it. Thank you, Joe. You the man.
For real. That's kind of cool. It connected all of us, yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that, again, it's crazy how there's like that one guy can do so much for so many people through his actions. It's all for the positive too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So keep it going. Again, if you want to join the group, like I said, there'll be a link in the description of the podcast for you to request to join the group and help us out, baby. Oh
man, there's some great non-music discussions that happen in there as well. Like it's just a fun group.
No, absolutely. I'm trying to think of some of the ones that like the non-music discussions that happen, but I'm always in the music stuff, so I'm just kind of blanking off the top of my head right now on those.
Yeah, same. I'd have to go through them, but some of them are really funny, and it's just fun. I mean, I guess they still connect in a musical sense, but it's not just, hey, go check out this band. It's more like, funny memes and that revolve about a band, and there'll be 300 plus comments, and everybody's connecting each other into those. But it's just actually, honestly, when I check Facebook, that's the first place I go. I want to see what I missed on there. And yeah, read the comments. I mean, the comments are great.
It's a music group with a lot of activity, a lot of interconnectivity, and a lot of substance behind those posts as well.
A lot of personality. Yeah, like so good. And obviously there's the people that stand out, the regular posters that are hilarious or serious, and then somebody has the hilarious part in there. But like it's so good. But
yeah, because it's not like, because you're not just gonna check out my band. It's like you're gonna actually see people like really open up on that platform as well. If they're an artist, like, hey, if you have some time, check out this, and then they're gonna actually give more of a description behind it so that you get to understand them or you get to know them more, and you just feel like you want to get to know them and just gonna start listening. So maybe stream a couple of songs, see what happens. And if you do stream, it's like, okay, I want to check out this band. Don't just stream one song. Don't do that. Please don't. Please, because Spotify, I know a lot of people love Spotify. They give you like the top 5 most popular ones. Honestly, run through those top 5 and then see what happens, because those top 5 could be completely different. How when I started trying to get into metalcore, for one of the bands people are trying to get me into was Motionless in White. And I'm like, okay, let's see what's going on here. Top song on Spotify at the moment was Voices. And I listened, I'm like, well, that wasn't what I was expecting. It's kind of interesting, though. Let's go to the next one. It was Eternally Yours. And after that, like in the first minute of the song, I'm like, fuck this. I'm hooked. Like, I'm never going to just listen to one song again.
That brought me into them was Eternally Yours. It's still my favorite. But that's a great band, by the way.
For me, it was Soft. First time I heard Soft, I was like, shit.
I mean, you can dive as deep as you want with them. They're another band where you listen to the full album, it gets heavy as shit. I mean, it's fun. Yeah. But
Yeah, but again, that's the thing. That's if we're gonna take anything away from this podcast, it's a couple of things. One, it's when band comes on the album, take a listen to the whole entire album. You're not gonna buy one chapter of a book. You're not gonna read just one chapter. You're not gonna listen to one song. No, go through the whole entire thing. And again, when it comes to music, just there's so many great bands out there that are breaking through, are going to be that next great wave in rock and metal, and could potentially catapult the genres back to being the most popular genres in America over pop music, over hip hop and rap, and in other parts of the country over like country, pop country as well. It can easily, with the amount of talent that is out there, the amount of diversity in sound, and all it takes is for everyone just to get together, enjoy the music, listen to it, and share it as much as possible. And not just like spam share it either, like, like we said with the acting group, the substance of sharing that's behind it. It's incredible. That's probably the best thing to get out of this thing. Also, listen to BrokenRail as well.
Yeah, read our
first chapter.
Yeah, not the third. Get to the third. Not right.
Just read all the chapters on BrokenRail. Just go through the album. Like, okay, chapter 1, song 1, here we go. Chapter 2, now song 2, let's go. And just keep going and going and going. Especially with the new album as well, or the most recent album, I should say. It came out in 2020, Beautiful Cast. Again, go through all the songs from top to bottom. It's going to be a diverse realm that is absolutely incredible to all hell. Also, because with California being the one that's going to be, the pusher that's being on the charting on Billboard right now, I went through the whole entire song and I always give an overall kind of summation of it. And when I came up to it, this is what I wrote. And I just want to share it with you guys so that people that haven't listened to the song yet can have a little bit of what my idea behind it is. And what I wrote is, overall, this song feels like you kind of, given the theme, you kind of lose hope many times, and then it amps you up to remember that you can never give up and never give up on that hope. Blake's voice just has this natural fit for this more driving anthemic hard rock track, and it works to help build on top of it. The instrumentals do the same by consistently dropping back in parts prior to the chorus, only to build up that hope once again. It is an interesting move if I've ever heard one, but it's one that I'm all for because they do it consistently, and you never ever get tired of it happening on this song. And that's just this song. The rest of the album is dynamic as all hell. So if I'm telling you to listen to it, yeah, go and listen to it. Like, now.
Better listen to him.
So did you read the whole book?
I did read the whole book.
What's your favorite song?
Yeah, that was my question.
Honestly, it probably was California, just with how the drive was behind it. There's so many other songs behind there, especially some of the heavier ones. I'm like, holy shit, this is definitely more for me. But I don't know why. California's kind of brought me back to a different time when I was listening to more of the hard rock style instead of just me getting deeper into punk rock and metalcore. Kind of also reminded me of certain times, like just driving in something that I would love to, because I'm going to Indianapolis for the Indy 500 for Memorial Day weekend, going with my dad and my brother. Like, this is a song that, even though it might be a little bit faster paced from what my dad would like in terms of rock music, this is something that him and I could just like go be in the truck, drive down I-90 or whatever other highway we have to get to Indianapolis, roll down the windows and just blast this thing to all hell.
Yeah, I love that.
So again, it's just the connection that just it makes. It's like, even though there's other sounds on this album that like I'm definitely a little bit more into, it's just the way that my head just gets transformed around this song. I just get latched onto it.
That's awesome.
That is cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think that song represents everyone's dream. That's what it was about. Like, people aren't going to understand that meaning because most people are going to probably think it's a girl. Because it sounds like that's typical relationship song, but it's chasing the dream. That's what it is. And in California, the vibe that California gives off, like, I guess, wealth, fame, all that bullshit that we all fall into. That's kind of the drive to chase that dream and the cost that's come from it. We've all sacrificed so much to be where we're at, and that's kind of what the song's about.
I mean, you could potentially make it about a relationship as well, in that same kind of thing where you're chasing that perfect relationship, chasing that perfect life that you potentially be going for. It all can kind of revolve around that. It all depends upon where your headspace is, what you've gone through in life, and how you associate with this song. This song, one thing I found out about though when I went through the meaning was, it could have like 4 or 5 different meanings. It all depends upon kind of what idea is most prevalent in my mind when I start listening to it, which makes it even more incredible because it means I can connect with the song and really feel it in 5 different ways. And it could happen at any time. Hell, I could listen to it once, literally repeat it in the car, and have a whole entire different headspace and just consume the song in a completely different way and just get hit just as impactfully. And it's still just super duper fresh because my mind is in a completely different headspace at the time.
Absolutely. I think its best quality is it has a feel good piece to it, even though it's almost sad. It's like
a hopeless optimist.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but the vibe that it gives off to me is like friendly and opening, and like, I don't know, it's just a feel good song for me. But
yeah, because I do understand where you're
punk into the chorus too. It almost has that punk,
that
driving chorus. And so I guess you could bob your head to it even though you're sad as fuck.
Yeah, because like a couple ideas. Like one thing when I came with the meme when I was trying to figure out, like it kind of does have that feeling of potential like lost hope as well, where it kind of can have a little bit of a sadder meaning to it. And it kind of could also use California as that connector, like in a microcosm, because thinking about it again, that dream to like go out to California, that was always a dream of a lot of American people, where it's okay, go out to California because that's the place where it's going to be fame, fortune, all that kind of stuff. But now that you see the situation that the state is currently in, there are people leaving the state because it's decaying in many different aspects. Again, similar relationship when there's always hope that the other person will always put a smile on your face at some point. Like, you're having a bad day, you come home and you see that person. It's just their presence just makes you happy. And there's also times where all of a sudden, they, for some reason, you can no longer do that for them. And it feels like that all hope is gone. In the end, it's kind of also about potentially losing that hope at times and then trying to find a way to recapture it. And that's kind of the way it builds up from that verse to the chorus. Because when you get to that chorus, it kind of has this feel of you can recapture that hope at the same time as well. And it depends on what you're thinking of, whether it's, going after your dream, whether it's a relationship, whether it's just potentially something that's going on in life. Hell, even if you're depressed and it's like, okay, maybe you're thinking life's not worth living. Again, this kind of build up that hope. Like, no, you can find a way out of this. You can make this happen. You can get to the point where you're happy once again. Because I've experienced it before. I've done it before. So again, when I'm talking about these different meanings, relationship-wise, life-wise, dream-wise, it can hit on so many different levels for myself. Again, it all depends upon the headspace that I'm in at that current moment.
Absolutely.
I agree. And it does have that redeeming factor to where it does have the sadness in it, but at the same time, it shows you that even though it's just, I guess, not forgetting the moment, but you've overcome it in the chorus. When you get to that second chorus, it's just saying that that these things remind me, but I'm past it. But and I feel like that's how you should be with I guess the badder moments in life. Remember it, but you have to move past it, and we're definitely a testament that you can.
Yeah, because even with the bad moments in life, they're going to be a part of you forever because you've experienced them, you went through them. But if you try and push them way deep down and forget about them, history has a way of repeating itself. But if you accept those moments that they happen and you've gotten past them, it's kind of like owning those moments, and those moments can't come back to hurt you anymore. Even though they're going to try, the fact that you own those moments now, it's hope to get past that at any given moment is just increases. And again, that's what you feel like, especially when you get to that second chorus and then to that solo as well that comes right after it.
Absolutely. You embrace it as a chapter in your book.
Man, this chapter in this book thing is really hitting home today.
I saw my chance.
Saw chance
for you. There's the mirror from the Haunted video.
Holy shit. I was wondering, is that a mirror? Is that just the most warped door frame I've ever seen in my entire life?
That's the actual mirror from our last video, the Haunted.
Oh, nice. I kind of want to walk right through and just see what happens, but either I'll shatter it or I might jump into it and it'll start shaking. I'll end up in the second set. Oh, fuck. Up in the second or third world in Super Mario 64.
You're welcome to come try.
I mean, if you guys want to record it and all of a sudden put it online, it's like, hey, check out this dumbass from this podcast we did. He's going to try and jump through this mirror Super Mario style and then just crash right into it. And then at the end of the video, you put,
we have the people that can edit it to where you actually jump through it.
Ooh, now that would be so. Hey, if you guys could do that yourselves too. If all of a sudden it's like, you know what, want to just do some wacky video going into this campaign or something, just jump through the mirror and all of a sudden just have the water thing happen and ba-dum-bum, and then da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, I'm probably gonna play some Super Mario 64 after this podcast now because I kind of been.
Who's gonna jump off a cliff for a flag?
I volunteer.
Not a bad.
Well, there's a princess over there. So.
Well, guys, as we bring this podcast close, I'm actually kind of getting close to that hour and a half mark, and we've talked about a shit ton on this podcast in terms of the song California and seeing how it is rising up the Billboard charts literally as we spoke on this podcast and getting more people behind it as well. Yes, nice crack of the can right there. Totally heard that. Totally fine. Don't worry. One thing I always like to do to close out these podcasts is give you guys a chance to say the last word, to say anything you want to say, plug whatever you want to plug. Right now, the floor is yours.
Ooh, get it, Blake.
First off, thanks for joining us, man. It's been a blast hanging with you. This last hour and a half has been so much fun. I can't believe it's already been an hour and a half. But yeah, we hope that we can tour the country again, man. We can't wait to get back out there with all the new material. You know, we've been sitting on a lot of this material for years, so we're very itching to play it. I know everyone out there is ready to get back out there, so the energy level is going to be crazy. We promise to give you our best, and we just hope you dig what we're doing. You know, we're ready to make the next one.
Well, I will second that. 100%.
I just see the nod on the end. Alrighty, well,
seriously though, thank you very much for having us on. This has been amazing. It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. Now I have to end with, I usually end with 3 things on this podcast, but this time I'm going to end with 4 things. The first thing, I always go and put this out there for everybody that's listening. When it comes to BrokenRail, when it comes to getting behind the music, when it comes to following them on their socials, subscribing to their YouTube channel, checking out their website, buying some merch from them, you're going to want to stay in the loop. You're going to want to stay in the know with these guys. So you're going to be thinking, man, can we just have like a place where we can have all the links to everything they have so we can follow them and stream their music and buy their merch? Just have one place where we can find that? I got you covered. Look at the description of the podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Podcast, iHeart. You're going to see Find BrokenRail online. All the links are going to be there. So like them on Facebook, follow them on Twitter, follow them on Instagram, YouTube, subscribe to their channel, Spotify, Apple Music. If you use those streaming services, go give them a follow and stream the hell out of their shit. And request California as many times as you can at your local radio station. And when it comes to buying some merch, go buy some merch from. Second off, I spoke about this. I will have the link below in the description for the SiriusXM Octane fan group. Again, big shout out to Joe Alfano on that one. If you want to join, just request to join. And if you love music, if you love rock and metal, you love being able to talk about it in substance, my God, that's the place for you. Now, guys, whenever I have a guest on the podcast that I absolutely love to have on the podcast, I always make this kind of a fun promise that I absolutely have 100% intentions of upholding. So this pretty much happens every single time on the podcast, and this time absolutely no exception. This is not an if, gentlemen. This is a when. When I get to see you perform live for the first time, because I want to see you guys perform live. I want to see you perform some of these songs, and especially in the harder ones, go crazy in that mosh pit. Here's the promise I make to you. First round's on me. Hell, even if you guys just come to Blue Ridge, like as if you don't get on the bill, but you guys come as fans, just come and hang out. Hell, first round's on me there.
Hell yeah.
We'll just keep adding on top of it. So
make a night.
Make a note of it. I'm making a note of it right here. I've got the whole list on my computer of all the bands I've had in the podcast because everyone's gotten the first rounds on me list because I love having as many bands as possible. You guys absolutely are on that list no matter what. So in all good conscience, I can't end this podcast with a goodbye. That seems way too final. Finito. Over. No, this ain't going to be over for a couple reasons. One, I made that promise to you and I always keep my promises. Secondly, this can't be the only time I have you guys on the podcast. This was too much fucking fun. We're going to have to do this again at some point in the future. Sound good?
Yeah.
So we cannot end this with a goodbye. We're going to end this with, see you later.
Yes, sir.
Next time we'll bring you here, bro.
Okay, I'm down for that.
That round's on us.
That round's on us, for sure.
Sweet. Well, folks, that was my interview with the guys from BrokenRail. Again, those guys are Blake, Dave, and Aaron. My God, those guys are fun as all hell. I do plan to keep my promise with them to go and see them play live at a show at least at one point in the next, hopefully year or so. Again, first round's on me. Hell, I kind of want to go and visit these guys as well. They invited me out there, so I'm like, fuck yeah, let's see if we can go out there and hang out with the guys. Hells yeah. And then you can get more fun, wacky content from us. When it comes to making sure you're following BrokenRail, again, I have all the links to their stuff in the description below for you can like their stuff, share their stuff, subscribe to their stuff, buy some merch, and also listen to their music as well. Also, if you want to join the Sirius XM Octane fan group, shout out to Joe Alfano once again. I'll have the link description below for you. So if you want to enjoy, talk about music with a lot of substance in terms of rock and heavy metal, my God, that's a group for you. So I have the link there for you as well. Also, when it comes to the Chord Progression Podcast and MSOD Rocks, I have all the links for all our stuff down there as well. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. If you are not following us, please follow us because, man, that helps us out a lot. And, well, you get to know more about all the great bands that are coming up as well. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to get you in the know right now in a fun way. So on that note, that's going to be for today, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. But you want to rock and I'll thrive because my name is Kevin. And you guys know how I end every single one episode with a big, healthy, and hearty. See ya. Yeah.